$3,000 a day with Facebook ads. What's different between what I'm doing and what other people are doing? Yo, what is going on, everyone? Hayden here, coming back at you with a brand new video. And in this one, I'm super excited to be bringing you not quite a case study, but a very specific example with a couple really good key points that we're going to be going over. So if you guys have been trying to get into Facebook ads at all, maybe you were just starting, maybe you've been struggling with it for a while, or maybe you're already doing really well, but you're looking to take that to the next level, pay attention for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, kind of however long this takes. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. The first thing I want to say is that if you're first getting into Facebook ads, like right now, this is your entry point, you're starting to learn. First of all, of course, this will definitely help you, but it's going to take you a very, very long time. Like, in my opinion, no matter where you're really learning from, to actually become good at Facebook ads. Now, expert is a whole nother level. Just to become good, I think that takes about a 12-month window of like, okay, I'm starting to make money, consistently learning. You've gone through a few different of those evolution shifts where the Facebook platform changes, the way we run ads changes, the algorithm changes, different things where you've constantly shown that you've consistently overcome and adapted on top of that. That's when you can kind of start becoming good and you have a sense where you're like, all right, I'm confident in this. And now $3,000 a day might kind of sound like that's a lot of money, right? Granted, that is revenue. That screenshot I showed, that's revenue. It's about 55% profit on that specific store, which is still great. But a lot of people, you might just be trying to get your first $100 a day or your first 1,000. Okay, maybe you're already past 3,000. That's great. So learning what actually is required to go into that, okay? Because you got to build up to it. So there's a lot of different stuff we're going to be talking about inside of here. The first thing I want to have you guys do is just put on your thinking cap, back like what they used to say in school. Just come at this with an open mind, because I run my ads differently than most people do. I already know that because I've learned from so many people. When I was trying to learn, I was putting all my money out in either testing or learning. And so I was just going 100% at it, and I saw what people were doing. And it's not one particular strategy that I learned that I was running. It's not even a mix. It was more so I just figured that crap out on my own because I was not getting good information. So I'm going to try and change that for you guys. And the thing I want you to also keep in mind is that it's really interesting, but the way that I structure my ads, which you'll see more about here in a second on this beautiful whiteboard behind me, is if I were to die, which just might sound weird, if I were to die right now, I could predict the chart and the graph of how a lot of my ads would fizzle off. So I know that they're passive past a certain point. They hit certain marks on the graph, which then lets them run for multiple days without me touching it. There's certain indicating factors where I know my exact process to the T. So I can very much so predict exactly what's going to happen. And off these different milestones and benchmarks, I know what's going to happen. So that's what we're going to talk about inside of here. Grab my little marker right here. All of this, okay? You guys probably have no idea what's going on. I hope you can see this. Let me bring this closer. This is divided into 3 sections. We're going to focus on the first one. So I do have some notes on here as well because I want to make sure I get all of this across to you. The first thing I want to point out is that I pre-structure everything. And I believe I've mentioned this before, but I never actually talked about how I do it. I pre-structure everything with my ads. And I know that other people don't do this. They just, for the most part, from what I've seen, they jump in and they run ads, right? They're excited, whatever, they want to make money. They don't really have a game plan. So when I say pre-structure, I don't mean, let me think for 6 minutes. I'm going to do this, this, and this. I mean hours and hours worth of research. That's why you guys see all of these different whiteboards, a big ass one right here with just dozens and dozens of these flip charts being used every single day. That's me going through, mapping out exactly what I'm going to do for different products, for different stores, for different ads, for everything. So I map all of that out, and I put a lot of time in on the front end because can I just go run ads randomly and be like, okay, let's do this and kind of go with the flow? It will work, but I've been finding better results with being very, very strategic with how I'm running my ads. So for me, that's better. And part of this pre-framing structure is this first piece. And this box up here, 1, 2, 1, 2. What the hell is that? So this is your page post. All right, we'll put PP up here for that. So I make 4. So let's say I'm running one product. Before any single ad gets launched, there's a few things I do. I was about to say that you have to do, but this is what I do. So I'm going to make, this is all for the same product. There's 2 variations, and inside of those variations, there's separations. So with this will be one of the variations for Instagram. And then there will be one of the variations where it's the same ad copy and the same everything. The only difference is it's for Facebook ads. And now there's going to be a different variation where it's the same ad, it's just a different ad copy. So this is where this one's also for Instagram and then this one's for Facebook. So you can kind of split this into two. And if you're gonna split test different posts, like a different ad picture, let's say you want 2 pictures and a video to split between, you're gonna need 4 for each, okay? In my opinion, that's how I test things. So that would leave you with whatever it is, 12 instead of 4. So this is for one product. Let me explain what the difference is here. When you're making your page post on just your Facebook, right? This is the ad, you already have your picture set up, you're writing the ad copy. I make 2 different variations, completely different variations of the ad copy, just to split test between that to see what people react to the best. I can tell pretty quick which one they are, and then I focus in on that one. But out of that one, there's 2 specific splits that I do. One for Instagram and one for Facebook. And everything is the same. The only difference, and I set all this up before I actually start my ads, this is just a small piece of it, is the only difference is the link. So on Instagram, if you're running an ad on Instagram, there's not a clickable link that they can click in the description. So the problem is if you're putting a post, just one post up, and you try and run that on IG and Facebook, you try and run them to both, you run into a problem. Because if you're gonna put the link on there, it's great for Facebook. The problem is it looks really crappy on Instagram and they can't click it. So it's unprofessional. Now, the other way around, if you try and tailor it more towards Instagram where there is no link, it's great for Instagram, but it's not good for Facebook. You want a clickable link. So I split my ads between the 2 platforms. I'm not running them together. So that's the only variation between it. So for every single product I run, I make 4 for each post. So if there's 6 images I'm gonna split test between and 3 videos, that's 9. So you gotta do 9 times 4. That's like what, 36 or something? So that's a lot of different posts you gotta create. I do all of that before, and that is just one piece of it. So we're just really structuring your ads because this is the ad. And I'm gonna explain this 3-step process here in a minute, but the ads that you're running, that's directly what you're linking inside the ads. So you need to have all that mapped out. I don't want to be worried about like the targeting and the budgeting, scaling, killing, modifying, editing, all of this stuff with the actual in-depth technical end of the ads. And then in the middle of that, have to go make a new ad post. I do all of that before. That is part of what I do on the front end. Now, aside from that, the second thing I want to talk about inside of here is the home base. For me, no matter whether I'm running an ad and it's just a regular, cold interest and the pixel's brand new, right? No sales. Or whether it's a half season pixel, a fully seasoned pixel, a lookalike we're trying to run or doing retargeting, it literally doesn't matter. My starting point is still very similar. It's in this very small circle and it can branch off into any which direction. So I really, really like to start from one certain point. That is just, it's not the exact same with everything, different stores and different products, different points, the pixels, that's a little bit different, but typically it's gonna look like a $20 per day ad. And so that's something that I'm running where every single day it's spending $20 per ad set. Now, out of all these, obviously there's multiple testing Instagram, testing Facebook, testing different posts. We're testing different age categories, different genders, different everything. So it's $20 a day per ad. That can add up quick if you don't have that big of a budget, which is why you need some money when you're going into Facebook. But this is my home base. And so this is one thing a lot of people don't understand. They think that because you're doing a lookalike or because you're trying to launch a retargeting ad, there's massive differences. And while there's a difference in the goal and what you're trying to accomplish with it, as well as how it was led up to, the launch point for, at least for what I do, is very similar. And so doing this and being able to get to whatever mark you want to get to, $1,000 a day, $3,000, whatever, $5,000, whatever that number is for you, I'm still starting with this. And so if you guys, you're really going to identify your strategy and be able to carve that out once you've had a lot of experience and you've been running ads. But I would highly recommend using this as kind of a general guide. I really like to start my ads at $20 a day. It can change if I'm doing a lookalike and, the client or whatever, because I don't really care if I'm running my own store, I want it to happen fast. Let's say I'm running for someone else and they don't have the most amount of money. I'll run the lookalike or the retargeting at $10 to $15 a day, and I'll be a little bit more selective. I'll watch it, I'll micromanage it a little bit more because they don't want to waste as much money on testing. They just need the results by spending less money. So it's more effort, you can do it, it's just going to be a little bit slower, which is totally fine. So this is roughly the starting point, just one out of many that I really, really like to kind of hone in on, because then no matter what happens, no matter what I'm doing, that's still like, I can come back to that. That's how I launch all my ads. That is the starting point. Off of that, obviously, I'm killing ads. I'm launching multiple. If they're spending $20 a day, I usually end up killing one or two within a day or two, usually about a day and a half or so, because they're just compared to the others in a worse way. So if I launch 6 ads and 2 of them are just completely, like, you can tell they're so far, the results, there's just a big gap, I'll cut off the 2 that aren't working, go analyze the 4 that are working, edit, modify, and then change those, launching duplicates. So it really all kind of starts with this initial point. Now, the third thing inside of here, and this one's a little specific and very fun to be honest, is the scale audience. So a lot of people don't really take this into consideration when they're running a brand new Facebook ad account. So if you have no data on your pixel, you have to be careful about a scale audience. I'm gonna explain what this means here in a second, but I'm gonna give you a scenario. I have a client right now doing about $1,000 to $1,200 a day. We brought that up within the last few weeks from nothing. Doing that with Facebook. And they're like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is like, they're freaking out. And I'm like, just shut up and watch, because they're in a scale audience. Like, their initial ads are not being run with a few 100,000 people. And I'm gonna explain this in a second. It's more like 60 and 80 million people. So I'm just laughing my ass off. Like, this is just gonna be unreal, just so profitable, because it's working in a scale audience at a smaller rate and a smaller, whatever you wanna call it, smaller numbers. So my laptop's making all sorts of noise. So with a scale audience, this means you have a lot of people in the audience reach. So as you're launching a Facebook ad, it tells you, okay, your audience size or your audience reach is like 130,000 or 700,000, 8 million, 90 million. If you go, just worldwide with like the biggest interest, 240 million. So the thing is, if you have no data on your pixel, it's better to go small, go more focused. Facebook can really focus on spending the money effectively in a small niche area. And the thing is, if you're competing, you're not gonna be competing in a scale audience. This marker is dead. You're gonna be competing inside of that scale audience. So the thing you need to realize is, if you have an audience size with 100 million people, there are big brands, big companies, and big advertisers inside of there spending big money. And Facebook works on a bidding system. So they're gonna be outbidding you left and right every single time. So that's why a lot of people, their cost per conversion, whatever that conversion event is absolutely through the roof, because they don't understand that they're running it in a scale audience. They don't even know what that means. So I would recommend to you, keep it small. Sometimes I run it under 100,000. If I'm starting from this point with $20 with no data, 100,000, sometimes 75,000 is the total reach. But you need to think about that and play that before you actually get into really getting in depth with all these ads for a new store, new product, new niche, whatever it is. Because if there is no scale audience in that niche, that means there's not a lot of people you can advertise to. So if you can start with a really good small audience and it's working for 75,000 people, you can only spend so much money before that audience is used up. Whereas if you're running a scale audience, let's just call it 30 million or whatever, there's a lot of people. You can spend so much money in there before you actually have reached everyone, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where the big brands play. Now, out of all of this stuff, it's very important. That's how I pre-structure everything. I have my home base. Scale audiences are something I really focus on, but I know that I just run my ads differently. Like, there's literally thousands of things. I do focus a lot on the front end, which I know, it's just been working really well for me, is to be very, very strategic. And that word I coined, mapative. I map everything out, which a lot of people asked. I did this little Q&A poll on my Instagram, Ask Me Anything. More than one person asked why in the hell I have like 8 whiteboards and all these flip charts. There's a reason for it. I like to write that stuff out. And I also have softwares and stuff where I go through and create diagrams, flow charts, graphs, all of that. I prefer to do it not on pen and paper, on a whiteboard or this type of paper. I don't know. So it's really, really helpful and beneficial to me. And I've been finding more success with being very selective with how I'm spending my money, what products I'm running, what audiences I'm running it to, and where I'm going to be starting my ads from. Because when I'm in depth, running all these ads, I don't want to have to be like guessing, wait, did I want to do this or this? What should I do? Because then I'm going to let emotions play a role. It's almost like trading stocks. You can't let your emotions come into it. Whereas if I have everything mapped out and I ever have a question or don't remember it, I just flip back to that chart. I'm like, oh, here's what I got to do. I follow that and it works. So for me, well, obviously there is change depending on what's happened. I play out every single scenario. So people are like, wait, but what if this happens? Your chart's incorrect. My charts can have hundreds of different outcomes, and then what you do off of each of those outcomes. So it's very in-depth, and that's why I spend so much time on the front end, even though people don't see it, because I don't really care to show it. I'm just focused on running the ads. So with all of this stuff and a lot more, just take that into consideration. If you guys are trying to learn Facebook ads, there's a lot that goes into it. It takes a lot of time. If you want me to directly run your Facebook ads, there's an email I'm leaving down below. That is only for people who either have a store already pushing a lot of sales, individual sales, or you have a budget to work with. Facebook really becomes a process. It's a cut and plug system where I've figured out at least what I do. So as long as you have a good product, it will work. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of different stuff. Slowly digest all of this. I know I just kind of threw a lot at you guys. If you want more Facebook content, let me know in the comments down below. And other than that, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like down below. And as always, join the family, join the gang. Help me get to 100,000 subs. I want that play button. That little, I'll throw it up right here, the silver play button, all right? I really, really want that. So I would very much appreciate it. Hit that nice looking subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow in the next video. Peace.